I first met Ann Patchett in 2008 when I interviewed her for my TV show on the Seattle Channel. You can still watch that interview on your computer, which I did recently. She was on tour then in Seattle with her newest novel at the time, Run. I sometimes find that meeting authors whose books I've loved can be a bit disillusioning, because sometimes he or she is somewhat different from how I've pictured her or him. But Anne was absolutely lovely, and after the interview, I think we both felt that we could be friends. But then she went back to her home in Nashville, and I went on with my life here, and we didn't follow through. Then last year, I interviewed Anne in front of an audience, a large audience actually, at Town Hall, and that cemented our friendship. Many of you probably know Anne as the author of Bel Canto, which is indeed a wonderful, wonderful novel. But you might not know that the Lyric Opera of Chicago is premiering an opera based on that novel. I would also, going back to the literary rather than the musical, I would urge you, if you have not read the 3 novels that appeared before Bel Canto, catapulted Anne into the top of the literary world. I first discovered her books with her very first novel, The Patron Saint of Liars, way back in 1992 when I was working as a librarian in Tulsa. And as I'm sure that many of you do, when I discover a writer whose books I love right at the beginning of her career, I just wait so impatiently for the next one and the one after that. And with Anne, I never lost my initial enthusiasm for her wonderful, wonderful writing and her ability to create 3-dimensional and interesting characters. I'm equally delighted with her nonfiction, including her memoir, Truth and Beauty, about her deep friendship with poet Lucy Greeley, and her most recent book, a wonderful collection of essays called This is the Story of a Happy Marriage. And some of you here tonight might not know that when the last bookstore in Nashville closed, Anne opened a bookstore called Parnassus Books. And the title comes from Christopher Morley's very funny novel of a traveling bookstore, Parnassus on Wheels, which I also recommend. Anne has a wonderful sense of humor, and she's wicked, wicked smart. To quote Wilbur, the hero of E.B. White's Charlotte's Web, "It is not often that someone comes along who is a true friend and a good writer. Anne is both." Join me in welcoming
Hi. There are a couple of things I want to say. Nancy, thank you. I've been in love with her for such a long time, and it's really fun that we finally get to be friends, and you're so lucky to have her in your town. There are a couple of, yes. There are a couple of total non sequitur things that I want to say before I get into my talk. One is, I don't want anyone here to be afraid, because I know what time it is, and my great virtue as a public speaker is I never go on too long. So I don't want you to have that, yay! I don't want you to have that panicky feeling that one can have when the after-dinner speaker takes the stage. I'm excited that there are so many great writers here tonight, and it makes me want to get up and go around and meet everybody. But I don't know where David Schaefer is, but I have to say to you, hey, hi. So I want to say, I loved your book. And I loved a lot of the books of the people who came tonight, but you've had this big impact on my life and my marriage. David's book is called Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, which is a terrific book if you haven't read it. And my husband, Carl, is a really nice guy, and he's from Mississippi, and he doesn't swear. sort of like part of his thing. And so now when anything happens in his life, when he drops a dish, when a patient comes in and wants to be seen at 8 o'clock at night, and he calls me, he's like, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. He says this all the time now. And it's become our code. So you're very much a part of our life. Just wanted to let you know that in case I couldn't find you in the crush afterwards, that I could tell you that from the stage. I always want to speak with a handheld mic and not stand behind the podium because I want you to enjoy my fabulous dress. And I want to tell you that Liz Gilbert gave me this dress. Liz Gilbert went on tour with Oprah this year, and they did 8 events, 8 different cities, and Liz, being Liz, ordered 8 Oscar de la Renta dresses, 1 for every city of the Oprah tour, and 1 came in and it wasn't her size. And so she sent it to me, which was really nice, especially after I explained to her that, in fact, you can mail these dresses back and they'll send you the correct size. She said, oh, I thought it would be cute on you. And then she bought this dress again in her size. So when her book comes out in September, a terrific book about creativity called Big Magic, we're going to have an event at Parnassus in Nashville, and we're both going to wear this dress. So I want you to just kind of be up on all of that. But what I'm here to talk to you about tonight, in your after-dinner library gala speech, is altruism, which is something that I have been thinking about for a while. My friend Madison Smart Bell, who's a novelist, emailed me one day, and he said he had a question about altruism. And he said, do you think it is possible for a person to truly be good? Does anybody ever do a good deed for the sake of goodness? Without any expectation of reward? Or is it that those of us who do good deeds kind of get off on our good deeds in some way? So basically, Mother Teresa just really enjoyed lepers. And it means that her good deeds weren't really good because she was getting pleasure out of her good deeds. Now, I am the kind of person that people call when they have these questions because I went to Catholic school for 12 years. And my answer was, it doesn't make any difference at all if you get some sort of benefit from your altruistic good deed. If somebody is cold and you give them a blanket and it makes you feel good about yourself that you've given them a blanket, it doesn't make any difference. What matters is that that person is warm. They have a blanket. I checked this out with my nun. I actually have my own personal nun. That's not even a joke. Sister Nina is mine. She is my responsibility in this world. If you read This is the Story of a Happy Marriage, the very last essay in the book is called The Mercies, and it's about Sister Nina. She's 83. She taught me how to read when I was in first grade, and we found each other later in life. And anyway, so I called Nina and I said, so, what's the deal? She has not been reading a lot of Christopher Hitchens. Madison Smart Bell has been reading a lot of Christopher Hitchens. I said, so is there such a thing really as a good deed? Is there such a thing as altruism? Or if you enjoy it, does that sort of negate the value? I don't know how many of you grew up Catholic, but I really did grow up with the belief that if you did something good and you ever told anybody, completely wiped it off the slate. Like you were getting your reward now, you wouldn't be getting... Are you Catholic? You're just nodding at me with this total, yes, yes. So Sister Nina says that's ridiculous. Of course a good deed is a good deed. It doesn't make any difference. You should feel good about it. You should have some sense of personal reward or benefit. I actually became really good friends with the 1980s, 90s super duper model, Paulina Poroskova. You remember Paulina Poroskova? Like, Paulina and I hang out now. And she was saying the same thing to me a week ago. She said, there is no such thing as a good deed. There's no such thing as a good person because we all get our rewards. All right. She said, I live in New York. I go to all of these society things, and every person who gives a blanket to a homeless person has a news crew behind them, getting the photo footage and all of that. So put all of that in your mind. And now I'm going to tell you about my good deed and about my altruism, which is this. In early 2011, in Nashville, we lost our 2 bookstores. We had a Borders, which was 30,000 square feet, and we had a store called Davis Kidd. Davis Kidd used to be our locally owned and operated independent bookseller. Wow, that was a lot closer than I thought. And it was bought by a chain out of Ohio called Joseph Beth Booksellers, and it also became a 30,000 square foot bookstore. So we've got 2 bookstores in Nashville, and they're both the size of Macy's. And in 2011, they both closed. Now, Borders, we know, went the way of all Borders. And Davis Kidd closed, as we say, at a corporate level, which means that even though the store was profitable, the Joseph Beth chain had 10 stores, and it wasn't sustainable, and so they closed 8 of them. So everybody in Nashville, we were rending our garments, we were pounding our heads, we were weeping. We had no bookstore. We had some good used bookstores, but let me tell you, I'm in the business of selling books for a living, and used bookstores mean nothing to me. And so I kept thinking, all right, they're going to open a bookstore, right? Somebody's going to open a bookstore. And I waited, and they were having committee meetings, and I want to go into retail about as much as I want to go into the Army. I mean, this is not my dream to go into retail, but I'm thinking someone's going to do it. Someone's going to step up. And I start thinking, well, God, whose responsibility is this? Whose responsibility is this to open a bookstore, right? It's got to be. And then I stop, and I'm thinking of Sister Nina, and I'm thinking of the Mercy nuns who raised me. And what the nuns always told us was this: if you can formulate the sentence in your mind, whose responsibility is it to? Whose responsibility is it to pick up the trash? Whose responsibility is it to reform public education? Whose responsibility is it to support our library system? Well, it's yours. As soon as you can figure out that sentence, it is your responsibility. All right, short segue, true story. When I was in college, I went to summer school at Harvard. Now, we all know that Harvard is a wonderful, venerable, hallowed hall of learning. What you might not know is Harvard has one of the worst cockroach problems of any university in this country. Outrageous insects. So that summer, I am rooming in a suite with 3 friends, and we've got roaches. I mean, there's just no way to even explain it. They ran across the floors at night. Every time we would come in and flick the light on, it was like they were playing canasta and smoking, and they were like, yeah, you what? And we would scream and run around. So one night, in the middle of the night, I get up. It's probably 11 o'clock at night, and I get out of bed, and I step on a cockroach. And I mean, I don't put a dent in this thing. I don't harm it, not one of its legs. It just shoots right on out. And I scream, and the other 3 girls scream, and we get up, and we've got towels, and we're running around. We get the cockroach into the bathroom and into the shower. And we slam the door, and we roll the towel, and we shove the towel under the door, and we're doing that thing that girls do when they get upset. We're hopping. And we're like, God. And we're teary. I said, I'm going to go get security. So I go downstairs, and I find a security guard, and he's like 87. And I said, you've got to come up to the room. I got a bug. And he's like, okay, all right. So he comes upstairs, and we're all standing behind him, and we're hopping. And he goes in, takes the towel out, and he looks in the shower. And he turns around and he looks at us. And he said a sentence, and I'm not even joking, that changed my life forever. He says, "Ladies, you are on your own." And I knew he wasn't talking to the three of them. He was talking to me. And I took my shoe off, and I did what had to be done. And that's what it was like to open a bookstore. And I thought, you know, I love my city. I love Nashville. I don't want to live in a city that doesn't have a bookstore. I'm going to go in, I'm going to lose my shirt, I'm going to spend a bunch of money because this is right. This is like your symphony is going down the drain and you've got to have a symphony. I'm going to step in and I'm going to do what's right. In April of 2011, I was introduced to a woman named Karen Hayes, and we had lunch. And over the course of lunch, we decided to open a bookstore together. That was how well we knew each other, one lunch. And this was the last day, it was April 30th. We opened the store on November 15th. There was not a lot of thought going into this process. It was like it was happening, I needed it to be done, and I was altruistic. I was a good person. I was going to come through and do the right thing for my city. And I never thought about what I would get out of it. Let me tell you what I got out of it. Well, the first thing is I got a dog named Sparky. Sparky works at that bookstore. I pull up in front of the bookstore, I call. I don't even go in, I just call on the phone. I say, "Come get the dog." And I roll down the window, and one of the girls in the bookstore comes and she takes the dog out of the car, and he plays in the store all day. Never has a dog been so happy as Sparky is. I would have built that store just for Sparky. Okay, number two, I live in Nashville, right? You know, the writers, they write songs, they don't write books. Now I get to see not only all of my friends, but all of the people I ever wanted to be friends with, because everybody comes to Nashville, because I am the mafia. And I know, if I don't know the writer, I know your publicist. I did a favor once for your editor. I can get you. I can make you come to Nashville. And so everybody I want to see, I get to see. My friend Liz Gilbert, I get to see her. Donna Tartt, I get to see her. And also the people that I don't know, I will get to you sooner or later, and I'll get you to come to Nashville. So that was fantastic. Oh, my God. And what do we sell at Parnassus Books? We sell my books all day long. I swear to you, I never even thought of that. So that's been really good. But the thing that I get to do, the thing that makes it true that this was not a good deed, that this was not an altruistic act, but this is what I'm getting out of it. I get to force strangers to read the books I want them to read. Let's assume that everyone in this room is a reader. Let's assume that we are all here because we read. And we know, as readers, it's a wonderful thing to find a book that we love. But that experience is never fulfilled until you can turn around to your friend, your husband, your sister, your child, and say, "Oh my God, you've got to read this book." I mean, that's the covenant between the book and the reader, is to give it to the person and say, "This is the book for you." It's matchmaking. And I've been forcing people I know to read the books I love my whole life, my family, my friends. Now I have a limitless audience. Other story. I was in graduate school at Iowa. This was, let's call it 1986. And I was in O'Hare, flying home. Had a really heavy bag. And in the airport, I got lost. Do you remember when you could get lost in an airport? Do you remember that? I mean, it's like, do you remember when you could smoke in an airport? You could smoke and get lost at the same time. And I was walking around O'Hare, looking around like this, and this guy comes up to me, and he says, "Are you lost?" And I said, "Yeah, I am," and he was cute. He looked like John Denver. You know, he had straight blonde hair and little round glasses and a pink polo shirt and khakis. He says, let me see your ticket. And I give him my ticket. And he says, man, you are lost. He said, you know what? I'll take you there. I'll carry your bag. And he takes my suitcase. And I wasn't that kind of girl, you know, so I'm pretty excited that this cute boy wants to walk me to the gate and carry my suitcase. And I said, well, what about you? I mean, I don't want to make you late for your flight. He says, no, I don't have a flight. I'm a Hare Krishna. And I'm afraid. This breaks my heart. This is so touching. Do you remember when we were afraid of Hare Krishnas in the airport? Like a Hare Krishna in an airport was scary. God, bring back the Hare Krishnas. Oh, how I miss them. I miss them. So we get to my gate, and I'm saying, you don't have to walk me there. I went to Catholic school for 12 years. I can get to my gate just fine. He says, no, I can walk you there. So we get to my gate, and my plane is 2 hours late. And the Hare Krishna says to me, I'll wait with you. Okay. And the Hare Krishna says to me, imagine that you love God so much that you would stand in an airport all day because you want to tell them that this love that fills you, this love that is the greatest thing you have ever known, it's so enormous. You want to give it to strangers who are terrified of you, who are hiding behind their Time magazines, who are running past you. That is how I feel about books. That's what it's like for me to go into Parnassus Books and say to someone, the new Abigail Thomas book just came out. What comes next and how to like it? You need to buy this book. I can put books in people's hands, and people in Nashville are afraid of me. I'm a very powerful person, and no matter what I hand them, they take it, and they go home, and they read it, and it is such an incredible joy. I would have started a bookstore for that if I had had any idea. Let me just tell you, Hector Tobar's Deep Down Dark was my favorite book of the year last year. And Sally Mann's got a book coming out next month called Hold Still. And every single person in this room must read Atul Gawande's Being Mortal, because every single one of us is going to die. I hate to break that to you. And when you finish reading Being Mortal, read Roz Chast's Can't We Please Talk About Something More Pleasant? Kelly Link's short stories, Get in Trouble. I can do this all night long. Richard Price, do you guys like Richard Price? His new book, The Whites, he wrote Clockers and Freedomland. It is so exciting to me to match up people with the book and to be that person in my community. All my life, not all my life, all my grown-up professional life, I have people coming up to me in the grocery store and they say, I love Bel Canto. And because I went to Catholic school, everything in me steps backwards. I now know not to step too far backwards. I'm not so good with that. I love Bel Canto. Thank you. I'm going to just go get some cheese. But now I'm in the bookstore, I'm in the grocery store, and people come up to me and they say, I love Parnassus Books. I love the bookstore. And for that, I can totally step forward and I say, I love the bookstore too. What are you reading? What are you reading right now? I'm reading The Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell, which I should have read 10 years ago, but it's really hard and I was kind of afraid of it. It's a brilliant book. Now, we in Seattle especially know, there are a lot of different ways to get books. And all of those ways